imagine you just pulled off an absolute miracle for your company. It's Friday afternoon. You solved this massive, just complex crisis, and you are basically the undisputed hero of the office.
Everyone loves you.
Exactly. Everyone loves you. But then, by Tuesday morning, the crisis is just a distant memory. Your manager is somehow taking all the credit, and you're right back to being completely ignored in the weekly meetings.
Yeah, it's like it never even happened.
Right. And you're left wondering, why does gratitude seem to just, expire so quickly? Well, in 1647, a Spanish Jesuit priest named Baltasar Gracián actually sat down to answer questions exactly like this one. So welcome to the deep dive. Today we are exploring some incredible excerpts from Gracian's book, The Art of Worldly Wisdom, specifically the translation by Joseph Jacobs.
It is such a fascinating text, mostly because, it operates almost like a survival manual for human nature.
Yeah.
We often think of 17th century court life as this antiquated, totally unrelatable world. But Gracian is documenting the exact same power dynamics, the same insecurities, and the social maneuvering we see today, whether that's in modern corporate boardrooms or, just tricky family dynamics.
Totally. And our goal today is to really extract the core mechanics of Gracian's philosophy so you, the listener, can build a toolkit for navigating these complex social webs, managing your reputation and protecting your own integrity.
And Gracian does not ease us into this at all.
No, he really doesn't. He starts with a fundamental rule about the immense power of what we actively choose not to say.
Right. He argues that cautious silence is basically the cornerstone of all strategy.
Mm-hmm.
In aphorism 3, Gracian says we should keep matters for a time in suspense. He literally calls this cautious silence the holy of holies of worldly wisdom.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the natural human instinct, especially today, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Our instinct is transparency. Like, we want to over-communicate. We want to explain our whole process. But Gracian says that when you explain everything up front, you kind of destroy the anticipation.
You really do.
It makes me think of a magic trick. The moment a magician shows you the trap door or, the hidden mirror, you don't respect them more for their transparency.
No, you're just disappointed.
Exactly. The veneration completely vanishes, and suddenly you're just picking apart the mechanics of the trick.
What's fascinating here is the underlying psychology of how humans assign value. Gracian understands that people are naturally intrigued by the unknown.
Right.
When you lay all your cards on the table, you aren't just demystifying yourself. You are actively creating a target. He points out that declaring a resolution beforehand only invites critics to, tear it apart before you've even started.
Because you've essentially given them the exact blueprint to find flaws in your plan.
Yes.
And if you brag about what you intend to accomplish and then you somehow fall short, you have basically handed everyone the rubric to grade your failure.
Yeah, you become doubly unfortunate, as Gracian puts it. Mystery is a defensive shield, sure, but it also actively manufactures respect.
How so?
Well, in aphorism 94, he builds on this by saying, keep the extent of your abilities unknown. You want people to know you are highly capable, but you never want them to fathom the absolute bottom of your talents.
So you basically let them assume the well is bottomless.
Exactly.
But, how does that actually play out in practice? Don't people eventually just figure out your limits if they, work with you long enough?
Not if you control the flow of information. Gracian's point is that human imagination will always construct a grander image of your capabilities than reality ever could.
Oh, wow. That makes a lot of sense.
Right. Guesses and doubts about how deep your talents go arouse way more respect than a precise, measured knowledge of them. The moment people know exactly where your limits are, they inevitably start to undervalue you because, the mystery's gone.
Right. He gives this incredible visual for this concept in aphorism 98. He advises us to write your intentions in cipher and to adopt the policy of the cuttlefish.
The cuttlefish hiding in its own ink.
Yes. Just releasing that cloud of ink. And it's not just about hiding your professional limits, right? He says you shouldn't even let people know your basic tastes.
Yeah, the cuttlefish metaphor really reveals the true danger of oversharing. It is all about preserving your autonomy. Think about the basic mechanics of manipulation.
Okay.
If I know exactly what you love, like if I know you are desperate for verbal praise, I can control your behavior with a few cheap compliments.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I bypass your rational mind completely. And conversely, if I know what infuriates you, I could derail you in a negotiation just by pushing that one button.
That's terrifying, actually.
It is. But by releasing that cloud of ink and hiding your inclinations, You deny people the levers they need to manipulate you.
But, there is a glaring risk to playing the cuttlefish. Like, if you are a completely closed book, hiding your talents, obscuring your intentions, people might just stop trying to figure you out.
They might just move on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do you keep them engaged if you aren't showing them your cards?
Well, that requires shifting from defense to offense, which involves understanding how to manufacture a reason for people to need you. And this brings us to one of Gracian's most pragmatic and, honestly, ruthless observations about human relationships.
You're talking about aphorism 5. Create a feeling of dependence.
Yeah, that's the one.
Gracian writes that hope has a good memory, gratitude a bad one. And he uses this vivid, rather depressing image of an orange.
The sucked orange.
Yeah. Once the juice is sucked out, the orange falls from a golden platter straight into the wastebasket.
It is a really stark assessment of how transactional human behavior can be.
I gotta say, I really struggle with this one. I mean, are we supposed to just accept that our colleagues and friends view us as like a piece of fruit to be squeezed? That just feels incredibly cynical. It reduces every interaction to what someone can extract from us.
I get that. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, Gracian isn't declaring that human beings are inherently evil or, incapable of genuine love. He is analyzing the mechanics of professional and political momentum.
Okay, momentum.
Yeah, think about it. Gratitude is backward-looking. It's a passive emotion based on a debt that's already been paid. Hope, however, is forward-looking. Hope is an active drive based on a future need.
Which goes right back to the scenario we started with. You fixed the million-dollar crisis on Friday. The gratitude, the backward-looking emotion lasted through the weekend.
Right.
But by Tuesday, there was no new crisis, meaning there was no future hope tied to your abilities.
Well,
so into the wastebasket you go.
Exactly. Relying purely on past good deeds is a terrible strategy for maintaining influence. You have to ensure there is always a reason they require your specific expertise tomorrow.
You have to keep them on the threshold of hope.
Yes. And this dynamic of usefulness, it becomes even more dangerous when the person relying on you is your boss.
Oh, man. Aphorism 7 covers this beautifully. Avoid victories over superiors. Gracian notes that superiority is always detested. And then he uses this great phrase, a fortiori, superiority over superiority.
A fortiori being a Latin phrase, basically meaning even more so.
Right. So if being superior to a peer is annoying, being superior to the person who holds your paycheck is basically a death sentence.
It really is.
Showing up your boss is fatal.
It is the absolute quickest way to turn an ally into an enemy. Princes or CEOs or department managers, they want to be helped. They absolutely do not want to be surpassed.
Right.
Gracian argues that good sense is viewed as a royal prerogative. Any claim you make to having better sense than your manager is essentially treason against their ego.
I see the logic, definitely. But what if your boss is about to make a massive mistake? You can't just let the ship sink to protect their ego. How do you, course correct someone above you without becoming a threat?
Gracian offers a brilliant tactical workaround for this, actually. If you must offer advice to someone above you, frame it not as a lesson you are teaching them, but as a recollection of something they have forgotten.
Oh, that's clever. Like, as you pointed out in last quarter's meeting, even if they didn't actually point it out.
Precisely. You let them own the brilliance, you provide the substance, but you let them claim the origin.
It's all about ego management.
It is. He uses the stars as an analogy. The stars are brilliant, but they never attempt to rival the brilliancy of the sun. They know their place in the hierarchy, and they just shine without competing.
So managing relationships really boils down to managing perception. It's not just about doing good work. It's about the theater of how that work is perceived.
That is the essence of aphorism 130. Do and be seen doing. Gracian states plainly that things do not pass for what they are, but for what they seem.
So what does this all mean for our day-to-day interactions? It implies that the raw data of our hard work isn't enough to speak for itself.
Not at all.
Gracian says in aphorism 14 that the substance requires the accident, which is a very 17th century way of talking about the manner in which a thing is done. He says a good manner can sweeten a no.
And a bad manner can spoil everything, even reason and justice.
Right.
Think about a time you were technically right in an argument, but your delivery was so arrogant, or just condescending, that the other person dug their heels in anyway.
Oh, absolutely. I've been there.
The world judges by the jacket, as Gracian puts it. The exterior delivery is what makes the internal perfection palatable.
Well, that concept of delivery leads to what might be the most Machiavellian piece of advice in the whole book. Aphorism 187, do pleasant things yourself, unpleasant things through others.
Oh.
This is the classic corporate move. The CEO stands up at the holiday party to hand out the bonus checks and, soak up the applause. But when it's time for layoffs, suddenly HR is sending a sterile email.
That's very common.
You grant the rewards directly, but you inflict punishment through a proxy.
I have to push back on Gracian here, though. Isn't this just cowardly leadership?
Yeah.
Like refusing to take the heat for your own decisions.
It certainly looks that way through a modern lens of, authentic leadership. But Gracian is analyzing power structures pragmatically. He uses a very visceral metaphor here. He says the mob acts like a dog in pain.
A dog in pain.
Yeah. When a dog is struck, it often misses the actual cause of its pain, right? And instead it turns and bites the whip.
Oh, I see. The proxy is the whip.
Yes. If you are the leader delivering the bad news, you become the whip. The anger, the irrational resentment, it will be directed entirely at you, regardless of how necessary the policy was.
Wow.
Gracian argues that a leader must have a scapegoat to absorb that hatred. But why, though? Why can't a strong leader just absorb the hatred themselves and stand by their policy?
Because without goodwill, you cannot effectively govern or influence. In Gracian's era, losing the goodwill of the court didn't just mean a bad performance review. It could mean exile, or worse.
Right. The stakes were huge.
And even today, a manager who burns all their social capital delivering necessary but unpopular news will find themselves completely unable to motivate their team the next day. You use a proxy to protect your capital of goodwill so you can live to lead another day.
Wow. Okay, to successfully pull off this kind of intense social theater, like to sweeten a rejection with the perfect manner or to smile while your proxy plays the bad guy, you need a staggering amount of internal discipline.
You really do.
If you are emotionally volatile, this whole house of cards just collapses.
Which is exactly why Gracian transitions from external manipulation to absolute internal mastery. You simply cannot manage the perceptions of others if you are a slave to your own reactions.
Right, and this requires a level of emotional agility that honestly sounds exhausting. In Aphorism 77, he says to be all things to all men, to be a discreet Proteus, the mythological shapeshifter.
Yes, adapting to the room.
You adapt entirely to the mood of whoever is there. If they are serious, you are serious. If they are genial, you reflect that geniality.
And this adaptability extends to how you make decisions, too. In Aphorism 13, he advises us to act sometimes on second thoughts, sometimes on first impulse.
Because if you are rigid, you become predictable.
Exactly. If you always take days to ponder a decision, or if you always fire from the hip, a penetrating intelligence, basically, a savvy rival, will map your pattern.
And once they know your rhythm,
they can lay an ambush. You have to mix up your impulses just to keep opponents off balance.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me. It's Aphorism 155, the art of getting into a passion. Gracian says you must regulate your passion, and the very first step to getting into a rage is to actually announce it.
That's right.
You declare the anger, and by doing so, you keep control of the reins.
It is an incredible psychological maneuver. He is telling us to completely separate the utility of an emotion from the physiological experience of it.
But I keep hitting a wall with this. If I'm constantly mirroring the moods of my coworkers like Proteus, and I'm randomizing my decision-making to confuse rivals, and I'm literally scheduling my moments of anger, am I even a real person anymore?
That is the big concern.
Doesn't this level of calculation strip away our authentic selves?
This raises an important question, and Gracian does not ignore the toll this takes. But he defines authenticity very differently than we do today.
How so?
Well, in Aphorism 8, he equates unchecked passion with a total loss of free will.
Wait, feeling your emotions deeply is a loss of free will.
If those emotions dictate your actions, yes, think about it. If someone insults you and you instinctively fly into a rage, you didn't choose that reaction. The other person pulled a lever and you reacted like a machine. You are basically a slave to your humors.
So acting as a Proteus isn't about being hollow.
Not at all. It is tactical empathy. It is a method of ensuring that your rational mind never relinquishes the driver's seat.
Okay.
When Gracian says you should announce your rage, he means that if you strategically need to display anger to, draw a boundary or make a point, you execute that display deliberately.
You don't let it consume you.
Right. The moment you are genuinely consumed by rage, you've handed your power over to the person who provoked you. As he puts it, the mind must ride the emotion like a wise person on horseback. The horse doesn't tell the rider where to go.
Okay, I follow the logic of self-mastery. But let's look at the toolkit we've assembled here today.
It's quite the list.
We are hiding our true intentions in Cuttlefish Inc. We are manipulating our colleagues' hope to keep them dependent on us. We are using scapegoats to deliver our bad news. And we are feigning emotions to control negotiations.
Yeah.
This sounds exactly like a blueprint for a sociopath. I mean, how is Gracian any different from Machiavelli?
Ah, this is the pivotal turn in the text. And it is really what elevates Gracian from a mere cynic to a profound philosopher. He introduces an ultimate anchor that prevents all these tactics from curdling into pure villainy.
Which is...
It is a requirement for absolute moral integrity.
It is such a jarring shift when you read it. In Aphorism 300, which is the very last rule in the book, Gracian simply writes, in one word, be a saint.
Yes.
He says virtue is the link of all perfections, and a person's greatness is measured by their virtue, not their fortune. I spent the whole book learning how to be a manipulative shapeshifter, and now he tells me to be a saint.
It seems contradictory until you understand Gracian's definition of the world. For him, strategy without virtue is just miserable, ruinous villainy.
Right.
He is explicit about this in Aphorism 16. He says that a fine intellect wedded to a wicked will is an unnatural monster. It envenoms all excellences. Knowledge without good intentions is double folly.
He draws some very hard ethical lines, actually. In Aphorism 165, he says to wage war honorably. He explicitly forbids the use of poisoned arrows. He does. He says you must never use a broken friendship for vengeance. He even says you should act so that if gallantry and fidelity were lost to the world, people could find them again in your own breast.
He anchors all of this in Aphorism 29. The man of rectitude clings to the right, even against the passions of the mob or the violence of a tyrant.
But how do we reconcile the cuttlefish and the scapegoats with the man of rectitude refusing to use poisoned arrows?
By understanding that Gracian is providing defensive armor, not offensive weaponry.
Defensive armor.
Yes. He views the world as deeply flawed, full of deception, envy, and cruelty. If you walk into a 17th century court or, a modern corporate merger armed only with naive goodness, you will be destroyed by a bad actor.
They'll tear you apart.
Absolutely. Your inner saint will be crushed.
You have to be cunning precisely because you are good.
Yes. You use the cuttlefish ink to hide from manipulators. You manage dependence so that selfish people don't just discard you.
Right.
You control your passions so that provocateurs can't unravel you. You are utilizing worldly wisdom to build a fortress around your virtue. If you are good but foolish, you are just a victim. Gracian is teaching good people how to survive in a wicked world without becoming wicked themselves.
That fundamentally changes how we read the text. It's not a manual for tyrants. It's a survival guide for the honorable.
Beautifully put.
Let's look at the map we've drawn today from Gracian's insights. We started with the immense power of mystery, understanding that transparency often invites criticism, and why hiding the bottom of your talents manufactures respect. We explored the harsh mechanics of momentum, realizing that professional survival requires maintaining a feeling of dependence, relying on forward-looking hope rather than backward-looking gratitude.
We also decoded the theater perception, recognizing that just doing the work isn't enough. The delivery, the manner, and the strategic use of proxies are essential to preserving your goodwill and your social capital.
We navigated the exhausting but necessary discipline of emotional agility, being the adaptable Proteus, varying your impulses, and never letting your passions hijack your rational mind. And finally, we uncovered the anchor of virtue.
The fortress.
Yes, the realization that all of this cunning is merely defensive armor meant to protect an honorable core from a ruthless world.
It is a cohesive, truly brilliant system for navigating the friction of human relationships.
And it remains relevant because, honestly, the core hardware of the human brain hasn't received an update since 1647.
Not at all.
The people in your office or your social circle have the exact same insecurities, the same desire for power, and the same predictable blind spots as the courtiers Gracian was observing.
The only difference is the wardrobe.
Exactly. But now you have the historical toolkit to navigate them. Before we wrap up, though, we want to leave you with one final fascinating nugget from Gracian to mull over. Early on, we discussed the power of silence and keeping your thoughts hidden. But in Aphorism 282, Gracian advises us to take that restraint one step further. He says, make use of absence to make yourself more esteemed.
He is basically applying the law of supply and demand to human presence.
Exactly. Gracian argues that constant presence diminishes fame, while absence augments it. The more available you are, the less people value your time. He says even the phoenix uses retirement to turn absence into desire.
It's a powerful thought.
So think about our hyper-connected digital reality today. You're expected to be available 24/7. You're on Slack, you reply to emails in 5 minutes, you pick up every call, you text back immediately.
Always present.
You are constantly, overwhelmingly present. What would happen to the respect people hold for you and the value they place on your input if you strategically applied absence? We leave that for you to explore on your own. Until next time, keep your intentions in cipher, and thanks for taking the deep dive with us.